I'm going to reiterate, welcome to Learning English Together. This is a class for people who are learning English at the beginner to intermediate level. This is our third class. Today we'll have our opening prayer. We'll cover our homework from last week. We will talk about some new words. We'll go over some American customs and grammar. We'll read aloud a selection of text. We'll have some help on pronunciation. I'll share a video with you and explain the American culture behind the video. I'll show you the lyrics to the music, and we'll go through a review of next week's homework. So I already gave the opening prayer before I started recording. I won't give it again. And let's first of all go over our homework from last week. Last week I shared with you the ER and OR words. Those are words that end with the letters ER or OR, and they are used to form a kind of word. So the question I asked from last week was, what are those ER and OR words? What do they mean? And I presented to the class here on the slide, but you can also share what you think they are. They are nouns formed from verbs to represent the thing or person that performs the verb. So I gave a list of words from last week. Are there any words on that list that you did not correctly identify their ER or OR form? So produce, producer, sing, singer, run, runner, yell, yeller, elevate, elevator. I'm emphasizing the OR of elevator, so you don't see it as elevator because of the way it's spelled, but it's elevator in common speech. Pontificate, which means to talk in a high and mighty tone, and pontificator is someone who does that. Moderate, moderator, or moderator. A moderator is someone who controls the conversations within a group of people. Orate is to speak and to give a speech in more of a formal setting. And the noun from orate is orator. And berate is to shame someone or scold someone. So someone who does that is a berater. There any questions about those verbs and those nouns and how the nouns are formed? I
No,
did.
no, no. Keep going.
Oh, good. I did post a PDF in the WhatsApp group that gave a list of words that end in ER or OR, and they give a little bit of explanation of how those words are formed and how to predict what form of the ending you will use, whether it is ER or OR. But again, as I say almost every week in this class, English is not a predictable language. So there's a lot of things that you have to just memorize. The new words I want to talk about today are words about American money. And so those five new words are coin, dollar, cent, currency, and money. So coin is the small metal disc that represents a unit of money. And a coin can represent any amount that's specified by the agency that produces the coin. Your country might have a different system of what amounts are available as coins. In America, we've got the penny, which is a single cent. We have the nickel, which is a 5-cent piece. We have a dime, which is 10 cents. We have a quarter, which is 25 cents or 1/4 of a dollar. We have a half dollar, which is half of the value of a dollar or 50 cents, and we have a dollar. So a coin is any disc, metal disc that represents that. Now, in other cultures in ancient times, they used other methods to represent coins. It could have been a precious object of some type, but usually it was a metal disc representing a unit of money. A dollar, the American dollar, is the smallest whole value of American currency. And a cent is the smallest fractional value of the American currency. So a cent represents one hundredth, and a dollar has 100 cents in it. So we have a decimal currency, as many countries do, where there are 100 units of the smallest value represented by the whole value. Other cultures have used different systems. England famously had a very complicated system of pennies and shillings and pounds. We don't use that system, and from the beginning of America, we never used anything but a decimal system. Currency is the collection of bills and coins that represent money, and money is a trusted value expressed as a unit of a particular kind of thing, typically a precious good, or sometimes represented by an actual or digital object. For example, money to many people is the cash they have in their hand, the currency, the dollar bills or the bills they have. But money is not just the things you can hold. When I transfer money from my country over to someone in another country, no physical object is transferred. What's transferred is a digital value, and both sides agree that that digital value means something, and I can turn my cash or coins into that digital value, transfer that digital value over to another country, and when it arrives at that country, the person who receives it can then transfer it back into cash and coin. So that's what money is. It represents something, and usually it's based upon a particularly useful or precious value. Any questions about those 5 words? You'll hear those and others. I don't try to cover every single possible coin or currency coin or bill that can be represented. America has several kinds of bills that it uses, has the dollar, the $5, the $10, the 20, the 50, and the 100. Those are common in American currency. Um, the one interesting thing is we have a 25-cent piece, which is 25 cents, but we don't have a $25 bill. We have a $20 bill. Any questions about that? All right, I'll move on. The last 2 weeks, we've talked about the customs of greetings and how to give a greeting when you meet someone. And I emphasize that I can't give you every possible kind of greeting you can give someone. I gave some examples of formal greetings and informal greetings, and it's the same with American customs. The closing greeting is when you leave. It's common to say goodbye, which is short for God be with you. And because we're in a hurry to leave, we have to shorten what we say. So goodbye versus saying God be with you. It's common to add a name or a pronoun when you say goodbye. Goodbye, Mark, or goodbye, everyone. You can offer a complimentary promise or offer to return. Goodbye, Mark. I hope we can talk again soon. By complimentary, it's meant not to be necessarily a promise, like I hope to see you soon. Let's talk again next week. Neither of you are going to get your calendars out at that moment and schedule a time to talk. That's just a complimentary promise. That's the way our particular culture works. We expect people who want to continue a conversation to reach each other on their own and not necessarily schedule a conversation immediately at that moment. Some informal ways to say goodbye are so long, see you later, bye for now, bye bye. Very similar to greetings that you have in your own culture. They're just different ways of saying it. Any questions or comments about that, about the customs of closing a conversation?
Yes, I would like to know if they use God be with you like and all the time, or if they use it like in terms of religions.
Do they give a greeting in the name of God? Is that what you're saying?
No, like if they use the phrase, God be with you
Yes.
only for religious person, or if they use it, you know,
Well,
for with
yes.
everyone.
That's a great question. The question is, would someone in America use the phrase God be with you only in a religious environment, or would it be
Yeah,
used more commonly? Um,
yes, exactly.
America has a very interesting religious heritage in that we don't have an official religion, but we have a very prevalent religion, which is Christianity. And many people in social occasions, both formally and informally, will use some form of a religious greeting or a religious closing based upon the context, but it's not common in a business environment because businesses typically are secular in nature and they aren't typically used in a school between a teacher and a student because in a classroom environment, the relationship is not based upon a religious environment. If you are going to a religious school, it would be fine. But if you're in a secular school or a secular business, it is not common to use a religious phrase when you greet someone or when you say goodbye. And that's just based upon the way we handle our religion in America. We officially are not a country with a single um, promoted religion. We have the value of religious pluralism. So you can be a member of any church that you want or religious organization that you want or of none. So it's a matter of learning the context about what you say when you greet someone for the first time or you are leaving someone. So it's more common, more polite to not use a religious greeting unless you know the person shares the religion with you. Um, some holidays in America have a religious connotation and a secular connotation. So, for example, coming up soon is the Christian holiday of Easter. Uh, so, it is common to say to someone, Happy Easter, whether or not they are a Christian, because that is a secular holiday in America as well as a religious holiday. So the secular version of Easter in America has rabbits and ducks and chickens and blooming flowers and eggs, which are all representative of the arise of spring and the blooming of fertility. So it comes from the non-Christian cultural heritage of spring being treated as a rite of new growth and new birth, whereas in the Christian culture, it is more commonly associated with the resurrection of Jesus from the dead, which is um, what many countries use to celebrate Resurrection Day versus Easter or Pascha. So Pascha or Paschal, I don't know what the Creole word is for that. That refers to the Jewish period that occurred when Jesus died. That's common in many countries. But in English speaking countries, it's more common to use the word Easter, which is a name taken from a goddess of the Middle East called Astarte. So people don't really think of it as religious, they just use it as a secular greeting. Does that help answer your question, Junior?
Of course.
Okay, good. Well, I appreciate that. I will talk at great length, so just be patient with me. Let's continue Grammar, we're going to go through some grammar. The last 2 weeks, I've talked about the use of the definite article, um, when to use it, what it means. We have one single definite article that occurs before nouns and pronouns, which is the word the. We talked about the meaning of it and the spelling and the sound of it. English also has only one indefinite article, which has two forms. So we use either a or an, but we say or an. Sorry, my tongue got twisted. So it's a or an depending upon the sound of the next syllable. So it's not based upon the spelling. It's not based upon the letter. It's based upon the sound. So for example, a test, a car, a mountain, a boat, a thunderstorm. We use an for words that have an initial vowel sound. In most cases, if the word begins with a vowel, it will have the an form of the indefinite article. So an apple, an ear, an elephant, an iPhone, an example. Those are fairly clear and predictable. They have no meaning as to gender. It's simply a way to make the indefinite article more pleasant, more resonant. So a test, an apple. Note, however, that some words have a silent letter that gives it a vowel sound. And we haven't talked about silent letters, but just trust me, we will. So we have a minute, which is the letter A. We have an hour because we pronounce it as hour. If I said a house, that's the indefinite article A. If I say an hour, it's the indefinite article an. And again, there's no difference in meaning. It has to do with the sound of the next syllable. So here's some more examples. A French man, an Austrian woman. Austria is a vowel sound. A Haitian boy, a European girl. That begins with a vowel, but we pronounce it with a Y sound. So a European girl. When talking about letters and numbers, you go again by the sound of that letter or number. So a ninth inning, an eight ball. Give me an S, give me a T. So it goes by the sound. Give me an S, give me a T. Um, this means that if you want to use the indefinite article correctly in speech, you simply have to know what the sound of the next syllable is. But in writing, you have to know how a written word is pronounced to know whether it gets the A or the an before it. Any questions about that or words that you think don't follow the rules? I'll give you a
Uh,
bonus. Go ahead, sorry.
yes, I think that university break
Yes,
the rules.
yes,
Yeah,
exactly. It is one of the examples, university and universe, because you don't say universe, you say universe.
yeah.
So is usual. A usual event, an unusual event. Those both begin with the letter U, but it's the sound. I'll share with you a word that has been shifting in pronunciation, and so the article use has been shifting as well. We used to say the word historic. Excuse me, we used to say the word historic as historic. So, for example, an historic event, we would have the N sound much stronger and the H sound would be swallowed. But now we are more clearly pronouncing the H of historic. So when you say a historic event, we now use the indefinite article a and not an. So when you're reading older materials, You may see the article "an" in front of the word "unhistoric," and that comes from the shift in our pronunciation that has occurred over the past 50 years. So languages evolve. I'm sure you realize that about the Creole language. It's the same with English. We shift, and our pronunciation for those words shifts as well. Any questions about that? I want to have a practice session here. Does someone want to volunteer to be the person speaking in italics here? I'll be the person who reads in regular text. The person who reads in italic would respond to me. Any volunteers? All right, I'll read this. I'll read it clearly so you can follow along.
Hello?
Yes. Did you want to read with?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great. Great. I have the names James and Naya in there. I don't think it should be a problem, but I have this pretty rose for a picture. So I guess I'm Naya today. So I'll start. Hello, James. How are you?
Hello, Naya. I'm fine. How about you?
Very good. Very good. Very natural. I'm fine. Did you sleep well?
Yes, I did. Thank you. How's your mother?
She is fine. Here's the report you requested.
Oh, thank you for getting me that.
You're welcome. Do you need anything else?
No, that's all I needed.
Okay, let's catch up soon.
Sounds great. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Okay, a couple things about the conversation. Um, we haven't talked about this yet, but it's very common when somebody does something for you or gives you something, you say thank you, and in response, you say you're welcome. I don't think that that is uncommon in the Haitian culture, but it's common in English and it's polite. It's especially useful when someone does something for you that's needed or desired. For example, when someone at a restaurant takes your order and they bring it to you, it's common to thank them for the work they did, even though technically they're just doing their job. But it's polite to thank them for their work. And then it's polite to respond with "you're welcome" when someone says thank you to you. And I want to point out one thing here, Fitznell. You should be in this class. You got really good skills, but I'll let you come in
You
here as
say
a
that
reader.
lastly. No, it's really an opportunity for
I'll
me
let you stay, but you're doing
to
very
learn,
well.
yes, to
Yeah,
stay, to assist you.
yeah.
So that's a good opportunity.
But I
Definitely.
also want to point out something about Fritznell and his reading. He's got good rhythm and changes in tone, and he sounds lively. Now, when you talk with people, you might not talk exactly the same, but the way you read this was very well done. So I want to commend you for that. I also want to cover again some of the hard sounds. I have some H's in here because I've noticed that the H sound, the initial H sound of words, is commonly difficult for people from Haiti to pronounce. So I want to emphasize it as a way of practice. So I have "how are you doing? How is your mother?" Really work on that H sound. How. The other sound I wanted to mention was the TCH sound, and that is the word that you see in catch, you see in watch, you will say in teach and coach. So English does not use regular spellings. Sometimes the spellings are approximate. So very often you have to just learn. But note that we don't often have a soft CH sound. Even when we use the word choose, there is a TCH sound there. So you'll hear that much more commonly in English than you will in Haitian Creole. Welcome to you, Schneider, sorry. We're just working here in the class. We're on a slide talking about a conversation which is part of the curriculum that I handed out earlier. All right, we're going to keep going here. We're doing pretty well. We have a pronunciation session here. We've gone through the long A sound and the short A sound in previous classes. So in this class, we're going to talk about the short E. And one of the reasons I mentioned the short vowel before the long vowel is that in English, very often the long vowels actually have several sounds within them. They're diphthongs or trithongs, if such a thing is possible. So the short A is a pretty short sound. The long A has almost a Y sound in it, A. So with the short E, the long sound is E, E, and there is a definite shift in tone and almost a slight E with an I sound in the middle. So I go through the short sounds first so that you are familiar with them, and then I add the more difficult sounds. The short E is very similar to the Haitian Creole E. So it's bed, pet, leg, yes, and them. It's an easy sound to make, in my opinion, so there's not much practice there, but I wanted you to see it. One of the things you might see sometimes is if there is a double letter at the end of a word. For example, the word mutt, which would be used for a mongrel as a kind of dog. Mutt has two T's at the end. When you see two T's at the end of a word that has a single vowel before it, typically that is a short vowel. So mutt is a short U. If there was a word like bat with two T's, the two T's would guarantee you it's a short A sound. So in most cases, it's a single letter, but if you aren't sure and the word has two doubled letters at the end of the word, it'll be a short vowel. All right, any questions about that? About the pronunciation? I think it's an easy one, so let me know if it's difficult. All right, now we come to the fun part of the class for me. I'm going to share a video, and I have the words to the video in the slide deck as well as in the curriculum, but while I play it, I won't be showing the words on the screen. So before we go into this song, this is an American song, and I picked this for a couple of reasons. One is that this is a specifically American culture type of music. It comes from the people who colonized America in the 1600s and 1700s, who came from an area in northern England and northern Ireland, and they were called the Scots-Irish. And they brought their kind of music to America, which became incorporated with other American sounds to form a sound that we think of as Appalachian. The Appalachian Mountains are a mountain range on the east coast of the United States. And so this is also sometimes called the hill country music or country music, but it comes from this region because the settlers who landed there have kept their traditional language patterns and their traditional music. I wanted to mention before we start that there is an abbreviation in this song of E''ER, which is pronounced air. It is an abbreviation for the word ever. It's used in poetry a lot. When you're writing poetry or music, sometimes you leave off syllables or you combine words together. It's just common in singing. I know that for me, one of the most difficult parts of my learning path for learning Haitian Creole is listening to people in Haiti sing, because very often words are slurred together or syllables are added to words, and I am trying to take everything down faithfully and I get confused. So it's just common in music. Every culture does it. It's not unique to English. I want you to listen to the pronunciation of the singers. There's two of them. Um, so I want you to listen to especially to the female singer because she does tend to swallow her sounds at the beginning of a word, and she sometimes musically slurs words together. So I want you to hear that with your ear and compare it to the voice of the male singer who does not. This song is an example of what we call a hymn, which is a common song in the church, common name of songs in the church. But the American English form of a hymn has a particular form, which is common to nearly all hymns in the culture of American Christianity. It comes from an earlier form of music in the church, in the Western church, the chant, which comes from the time when we had monks and monasteries, where the monks would sing a single note together in unison, and they would sing it at almost the same rate of speed for every note. There would be very little movement of the notes. Over time, that developed into singing several notes at the same time, which became harmony. And then with the arrival of the more modern musical instruments of Western Europe, the concept of a fixed octave with fixed periods between each note came about, and those harmonies were regularized and became common in music. So hymns use those forms of music, the the idea of a chord, the idea of specific intervals between the notes, and the idea of adding rhythm to it to create a hymn. The word hymn does not mean only what we do in America with hymns, but that's the word we use when we sing songs in church. Typically, there are four parts to any hymn. So there'll be four different ways of singing the hymn together, with a high part for both the men and the woman that's different, and a low part for the men and women that's different. So it forms a chord. This is common in Appalachia. I gave you some more links to other forms of this music you can read on your own or listen to on your own. In a modern American churches, very often hymns are no longer sung this way, but they were sung in churches, and they emphasize that the congregation is part of the service and not just the people on the podium or the stage. So they are a form of bringing about a congregational or common type of singing. So I'll go ahead and I'll start this song, Ancient Words. I have an alternate for you, sung in a different style. I want to make sure you listen to the pronunciation. We talked about what a hymn is and the uh, word air. So here's the words on the screen. Now, for copyright reasons, I have to turn off the recording at this point because if I record this song in this teaching, this video will be flagged for copyright infringement. So I'll turn it off. I have a link to the song in the slide deck. You can listen to it on your own, but we'll listen to it in the class together. So give me a moment here to stop recording. I apologize for those of you who could not hear the words or the music. I expect it has to do with the problem with the signal trying to transmit something in real time like that. The link to the song is in the slide deck as well as in the curriculum. So we can go over the lyrics now, and I wanted to ask if there was any comments about not just the words, but the style of music. What did you notice about the words or the style of music? Any comments?
Um, yeah, okay, to my luck. I don't have any comments, but when just I'd like to have an idea about this verb or that verb. Sorry, heed these. The song says, the word say, heed these words and hold them there. Heed, can I say heed? It's like to educate this word or like to teach these words.
That's a good question. The question was, what does the word heed means
Yeah.
when you say something like heed these words and hold them dear? So heed means listen to and pay attention to. So heed this warning. If you keep doing this, your car will crash. It is a strong request that you pay attention to what you're being told or what you're watching. So in this particular example, the writer is saying, pay attention to the words that you are reading and listening to and hold them to yourself as something precious. Good question. Any other questions about some of the words?
No, no, no question. That's I can say that's really a good song.
Yeah, I
Really
picked it
like
for a couple reasons. One is that it's slower. I know slow songs might
it.
not give you the
Oh,
energy you like, but
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I know
That,
for me that when I'm listening to my practice in Creole, I have a particular set of people I listen to on YouTube who speak more slowly, and I bless God for them because regular spoken Creole is a freight train, and I like listening to someone on a bike going a little more slowly.
yeah, good, very good.
Yeah,
That's really
so it's slower.
smart.
Also, the male singer there is Dee Wilson. I didn't get the name of the woman who's singing. Dee Wilson I've known about for a while. He's a good singer and he sings really clearly. And so I wanted you to notice the difference in the pronunciation and enunciation of D as
Mhm.
compared to the woman. Did anyone detect any differences? It's okay if you didn't. Um,
Yes, okay for me.
Yeah, that's good because what I wanted to point out is that the woman was singing slightly less clearly than Dee was. Dee was emphasizing the final letters of words when he said, "In part, they resound to God's own heart. Oh, let these ancient words impart." Now, sometimes those endings get softer in music, and that's just the way singing is done. But very often for people speaking English, that final sound is critical to hear. So in part, heart, Christ, faith, dear, and so on. I want you to hear those particular endings of that song. Um, that is pretty much what we have for today. I'll go over what I'd like you to look at for next week. But before we go on, are there any
Let
questions?
me keep
Pardon?
no, 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 no
Okay.
question.
Yeah, sorry. There's a delay between when you start speaking and when I hear it. Um, if there's any questions about the class of what we covered,
Yes, I have a question.
sure.
Okay, I would like to know if the word hate is still like, is it old-fashioned to use or it's still common to use?
The word heed,
Yes.
oh, it's not really common. It's an older word. So you'll see it in older literature. You'll see it in church songs that are older. It's an older word that's not yet unknown, but it's not common.
Okay.
So if you're reading an English translation of the Bible, for example, and that translation was done, I'd say before the 1950s, you will see the word heed very often. But more modern translations would translate as something as pay attention to or snap
Okay.
your finger up here, up here. But good questions. Good questions. Um, this is an older song. and I wanted you to hear it because of the enunciation. I do try to look for more recent stuff, but this came across my desktop this week, and I liked the style of music and the words. Another thing I wanted to point out with this music is that it's not common in modern music that you see on stage for everybody to not be singing at the same time and all the instruments not to be playing at the same time. So this style of music is different in that only a few people are singing and only a few instruments are playing. And it's not what I would call a full sound, it's a very sparse sound. And that's the style. It's acoustic, it's only a few instruments, and they're played very simply. So there's a whole style here of this music I wanted you to hear as part of the American culture from the Appalachian Mountains. Right? Any other questions about this particular song or anything you heard this week in the class, what we talked about? All right, I'll go through the homework for next week, which I call for next time. So in this list of words, I would just like you to mark each word that uses the indefinite article an before it. So go through what we talked about this week, figure out which words get the an and which ones do not. I think I covered all of these words, so it shouldn't be difficult. I try to make tests easy, but I also want you to practice during the week. So until next time, please read through the curriculum again. Listen to the link if you can that's on YouTube. If you don't have a working internet that can listen to the song, let me know. But for now, that's all I have. So I will see you next week. And if you're speaking, I can't see you unless or hear you unless you turn on your mic. All right. So thanks, everybody, and we'll see each other next week.